International, Putting People First, an interview with Apoorva Gandhi, Vice President of Multicultural Affairs and Business Council. We will be muting all attendees during the session. If you would like to submit a question, please place it in the chat box, and we'll be happy to address as many as possible throughout the event. Also, this event will be recorded for archival, educational, and related promotional purposes. If you choose to participate in the event, you're presumed to consent to the use of your comments in the recordings. If you do not wish to be recorded, please contact the event organizers. By attending or participating in the event, you are giving consent to be photographed and or video recorded, and you are waiving any and all claims regarding the use of your image by Kogod School of Business. The Kogod School of Business, at its discretion, may provide a copy of the photos upon written requests. Without further ado, we will proceed with our program.
Welcome, everybody. It's so nice to have you on this wonderful Monday morning, right after Thanksgiving. And it's my pleasure to introduce to you Apoorva Gandhi. And I can't tell you how excited we are to have Apoorva with us, truly a key thought leader. Apoorva is actually Vice President for Multicultural Affairs at Marriott International, where he is responsible for creating and executing an externally focused global strategy that builds preference and loyalty for diverse customer segments for the Marriott portfolio of brands. He helps to ensure that the company's marketing, sales, and operations consider and reflect multicultural markets and public affairs as Marriott continues its aggressive growth throughout the world. What a huge responsibility, and what an opportunity to have a tremendous impact on people here in the US, but all around the world. And I can't think of a better person to have with us today and to engage in a conversation about all the work that he is doing and to help us gain a better understanding of these issues. So welcome, Apoorva.
Thanks so much, Dr. Burnett. It's really a treat to be here, and thanks for inviting me.
Sure. Just to give you an idea of how this is going to work, I was thinking that we could, or I could actually ask you some questions.
Sure.
And give you an opportunity to, again, share in all that you do and, provide us with the insight that you have and, just bits of information and strategies that we can use in our own work. And also our students would love to learn about the work that you're doing and ways that they can hit the ground running in their professional careers would also be helpful too. We also have, staff on who would benefit from hearing what you have to say and would love to gain your insight into how things work at Marriott.
Sure.
So I have a series of questions for you, and it's completely up to you how long you spend on these questions.
Okay.
But I want to give you the intellectual freedom to sort of explore and think about some of the questions that I will be asking you.
Sure.
And so if you don't mind, I'd like to go ahead and get started. One of the questions that I really wanted to ask you about has to do with roles at Marriott International, and also, particularly as they pertain to diversity and inclusion. So my first question is, I'm just wondering, aside from your role, what other organizational roles at Marriott are more instrumental or important to the diversity and inclusion dialogue? And whether or not those different roles actually bring different perspectives and different ways of thinking to the diversity table.
Sure. And Dr. Burnett, I think your structure sounds perfect for this discussion. And Jess, I'm also very open if questions come in from the audience. If at any point you want to interject those, happy to entertain those as well as we walk through this. To your question on roles, frankly, it's everyone's job. It's everyone's job at Marriott International to be inclusive in everything they do. Whether you are a hardworking associate at one of our hotels, whether it's a front desk associate, which is a job I had when I was in college at the University of Maryland. I worked at the Greenbelt, Maryland Marriott as a front desk associate. What a great opportunity to exhibit inclusion, because that's usually one of the first places people go when they come into one of our hotels. So it's that person's job. It's the job of someone like me who spends all day thinking about this stuff, but it's the job of our marketing team to be inclusive. It's the job of our operations teams to be inclusive. Anyone who works with other people as an associate, that's what we call our employees, or a guest, or anyone in between. It's everyone's job to be inclusive and understand why this matters. In terms of key roles when it comes to actually doing this work every day, certainly, the work I do in terms of thinking about this from an external perspective, communications, customer perspective, but also roles focused on our associates, making sure that people understand that Marriott's a great place to work, no matter who you are, where you come from, who you love, or what your abilities are. We want everyone to feel comfortable. Think about it from a supplier perspective. We want to make sure we have diverse suppliers providing goods and services that reflect America and the world, and reflect innovative and different thinking to bring innovative and different solutions to help us solve our problems or issues or find opportunities. So, it's I would just say again, it's everyone's job, no matter where you are on the org chart. Every interaction matters. So that's, and to your point, Dr. Burnett, you mentioned different perspectives. That's so important. We all come from different backgrounds or walks of life and have had different life experiences. So it's important that we bring those to the table, because those can help us come up with innovative and different solutions that can help welcome all.
Yeah, I think that is so important, having those level 1 employees involved in the diversity is key, because after all, they are the ones that are seeing those customers every day. And just having them on board and having them be the face of it, I think is nothing but added value to your company. And I'm so happy to hear you say that employees at all levels are empowered to have a voice in this conversation, and that's really important.
Yeah.
Related to that, I was also thinking of something else, and I don't know if you've thought about this as well, but in terms of roles, another way of thinking about this is from the perspective of Marriott in general. So one of the things I was thinking is, what role then does Marriott play within your industry, within the hoteling industry, in the diversity dialogue? Like, how does voice work at that level of thought or analysis? And how does Marriott communicate what the diversity messages or lessons should be to other hotels or in the industry?
Sure. It's a really important responsibility that we take very seriously. It's important to us that we inspire by our actions, but words matter too. And I'm very blessed that I get to work at a company with such great leadership from our CEO, Arnie Sorensen, and many, many other leaders in the company who actually look for ways to bring this topic up, if you know what I mean. We have leaders who go on, CNBC, which if you go on CNBC, the questions are going to be more about your stock price or, financials, your balance sheet, and those topics. But we have leaders who also bring up diversity and inclusion in those areas to a big audience, a business audience beyond just us. So we have leaders that are very eager to talk about this topic in forums like this with universities, like I'm doing right now, on stage at other events. Via LinkedIn. Many of our leaders, including our CEO, has one of the highest followed LinkedIn blogs that he writes about a variety of topics, and this is one of them. So the key thing is that we have leaders who want to talk about this, feel it's important to talk about it because it's germane to our business, it's germane to our associates who come from all walks of life and want to know that they work for a company that values inclusion, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So it matters to us and it matters to others. And look, we're not the only company who talks about this, but we're proud that we can be one of the many voices, particularly in the hospitality industry. And by nature of being one of the biggest, people tend to listen to what companies like ours or what our point of view is. So we take it very seriously. Our leaders participate in groups like the Business Roundtable, which has a task force and efforts around diversity, equity, inclusion, and groups like the American Hotel and Lodging Association, where one, we can talk about what we're doing, we can, talk about that, but also we can listen and learn from other corporations to get other points of view or hear about other solutions.
Yeah, that is so important. Marriott has been a leader in so many ways. And so you might expect that, when it comes to diversity, similar to those other areas where it has led the industry, that the same would also be true. And so it's good to hear you say, that really from the top, there is a voice coming from Marriott for others, competitors, in the industry to hear how it should be done and how these topics should be approached. And I think that is so important because if Marriott isn't engaging, given its role, then we don't have other companies in the industry to follow. And so, I love the fact that Marriott is engaged in that way, in that really the leadership is involved and sees it as something that's key for all of its stakeholders. I also was thinking, because I see we have some students on the call with us on this Zoom call, and they're often asking and eager to learn about what skills are going to be needed. That's often a question that they ask in my classes. And so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about, what skills that they would need, soft or hard skills, in fact, in order to get to the next level when it comes to not just diversity in general, but also, having cultural and emotional sensitivities towards people of color. Not just student leaders, but just leaders in general. What does it take to really get to the next level and to be appreciated in that regard and having those sensitivities, both cultural and emotional?
No, that's a great question. I have 3 kids, 2 of whom are in college. So this is a conversation I'm happy to have and have had frequently. I think a couple things. One, when it comes to this topic of inclusion, and really, I think you hit it right, Dr. Bernes, what are those key skills, right? I would just give my opinion, first of all, is to listen. And when I say listen, I mean like really listen. And maybe listen without judgment, listen with an open mind, understand that many have traveled down different walks of life, have had, or maybe it's the idea that not everyone's scenario is like yours. And based on that, people have different viewpoints, people have different attitudes or ways of doing things. And just because they are different does not mean that they are necessarily better or worse than the way you might bring something to the table. I think when you listen, and I always tell people, it's always good to have conversations with people who are unlike you, right? There's that famous quote, a mind stretched never contracts. And I find I have some of the best conversations with people who are 100% diametrically opposed to what I think. But the key is to have productive conversations, ones that make you think. You may not like it. You may not like what you're hearing, but they make you think a little bit. And it may not change your point of view, and that's okay. but it may help you build a little bit of empathy on understanding why they have that point of view, right? And when you build the empathy as to why they may have that point of view, I think it helps future conversations. It's very easy for conversations to not go that way and end up being in an argument, or like as I would say, the cable news argument that you flip the news on and basically you see just people arguing with each other. What gets solved out of that? It's very rare. It's like on social media, you'd never see this quote. Wow, now that I understand your opinion, I totally agree with you. You never see that on social media. Rarely, right? So I think it's to those students or anyone, what has helped me is just listening, helping to build empathy, talking to people unlike yourself, but then understanding what are the key approaches that you can take to work together. Because being able to work together with a variety of different people, to me, that is a skill that never goes out of style. It never goes out of style in any company, I think, because that's what it's all about. In any corporation, whether it's or organization, whether it's a university. When I think of a university, I mean, thought leadership is all over the place, right? And there's got to be people who have different ways of thinking, but the ability to work together, regardless of that, or incorporating that, is a skill that I think would serve everyone really well. I see a lot of folks. Look, let's face it, this has been a very tumultuous year in about 100 different ways. And, when I speak to organizations, especially universities, I say, look, the idea of having a woke contest, it doesn't help. It doesn't always help I bring it back to inclusion. Inclusion means welcoming people you agree with. Inclusion also means welcoming people you disagree with and having good conversations. To banish people because they don't agree with you or have an opinion that you don't like, that doesn't help the conversation at all, in my view.
So wait, before I ask you my next question, and thank you so much for that, but tell me more about the woke contest.
Yeah. I mean, look, my view on this is, again, it comes down to having, I'm sure we've all had conversations, we're all coming off of Thanksgiving here, where you may have disagreements with people, or I feel what I've seen personally is that there's this idea that, well, if we don't agree on these three things, we're done. If we disagree on these three things, I cannot talk to you. I'm done with you. I don't want to deal with you. And I get that, okay? I understand that, because there are people who may house opinions that are completely contradictory to mine. But my thing is, you can't change the conversation if you're not in a conversation, right? Or it's about maybe understanding, okay, what is driving them to this feeling? And because, if I'm feeling that this person, I can't deal with them, well, they're probably feeling the same towards me, right? And the question is, what is the result that you're looking for? Or are you looking to advance a conversation? I've had cases where, I talk about diversity and inclusion all the time. And I talk about the importance of welcoming all. And I've had people raise their hand and say, look, I disagree with this. I think that based on how I was raised, what I was taught in school or in church or in my family is contrary to what you're talking about. So I said, well, look, let's not have a debate in front of 100 people, but let's go out to lunch and talk. And I've had those discussions, and you know what? Some of those people have become my friends. I still don't agree with them on much, but at least I understand why they think the way they do. And they've actually become good friendships. And I look to them when I'm testing my ideas, to say, hey, look, you know what? I already have the people who are on board. I don't need more of them. I need more of people who don't agree with me or are inclined not to agree with me. So I test my ideas with some of these folks. Say, look, here's what I want to say. Tell me in advance, what's the opposite viewpoint on this? Or what are things I can do to help people who may not agree with me understand it? But if I were just to say, well, you know what, you don't agree with me, you're not woke, you don't get it, I'm done with you. In my view, it doesn't help the conversation. It doesn't help you get towards viewpoints that are, or it doesn't help make a productive discussion. And I find that sometimes you see a little bit more of that on college campuses, maybe in others, but it's everywhere.
I really like your insight on that, particularly asking people to help you understand, their perspective. I think those few words are so key, so instrumental in terms of being able to move the conversation forward. And also, for students who are looking to become leaders, just having the courage to engage in those types of conversations, I think is important as well.
Yeah, to your point, sorry to interrupt, Dr. Burnett. I love quotes. My family would tell you, like, I love cheesy quotes because I think they're good sometimes. But I don't remember who said this, but it's the idea of it's the idea of how do you disagree without being disagreeable? And I think that's valuable.
We gotta, I think might be a good place to pause. Sure. I did get a question from someone in the audience, Karen Martinez, Karan Martinez, sorry, Karan. Did you want me to ask it or did you want to ask a question? I had a few more questions.
I thought it kind of dovetailed onto what Apoorva is saying. So feel free to ask it. Just read it to him. Thanks.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Karan.
Karan is wondering what Marriott does to train and professionally develop its workforce to have constructive conversations, and also wanted to know if employees are evaluated on some of the soft skills that you were just talking about.
Sure. So the answer is we do a lot. We do have, let me back up. Let's talk about, we do so much. There's like, I could just talk for an hour on it, but I won't. Let's talk about cultural competence, right? We have trainings around understanding our world of differences. That's actually the title of it, Understanding Our World of Differences, or Leading with a Worldview. And we make many of these all these trainings available to our associates all over the world. We also require certain trainings of all of our associates when they come join us. We also do training to understand different cultures of customers. For instance, many of our hotels, they want to get a piece of the Indian weddings business. It's good business. It fills up our hotels on the weekend. They're big. I know, I've been in one. I had 700 people at my wedding. Right? I mean, it's a lot of people, and but they're great pieces of business. Well, we want to help our teams understand what are all the steps in an Indian wedding? What are all the terms? What is the Sangeet? What is the Bharat? Vegetarian versus non-vegetarian food. What are all the things you have to think about when you do one of these? Because we want it to be that our team, when the family comes in to check out the hotel, that we know all those words, right? Words matter, images matter, people matter, tone matter. If you have someone who says, oh, Mr. and Miss Gandhi, we're so happy to have your son's wedding with us. Let's talk about where the Sangeet is going to be held, or where do you want to have the Bharat? Oh my God, when someone hears that, they're like, oh, they understand us. As opposed to something like, now, what do you want to do? Wait, you want to have a horse come up to, what is this all? Then the family feels like, oh, now I got to explain this whole thing, right? It's the same thing with bar or bat mitzvahs or quinceañera celebrations or LGBTQ weddings, right? It's about helping, in the Washington, D.C. area where it's pretty cosmopolitan. So a lot of people, just by nature of just how cosmopolitan this place is, we get it, we understand it. But you go to some places, a 2-hour drive from here, it's very different. But we want it to be a place, we want Marriott to be a place where people feel welcome and feel like they are included. The other thing is we have other trainings, like one that's really important to us called Respect for All, which is about some of the tougher topics, about unconscious or implicit bias, right? About, I always tell our teams, tone matters, right? There is a big difference between when someone says, oh, may I help you? And may I help you? There's a big difference. I know that difference. As a person of color myself. I've been in places where I'm wearing a suit and tie, and I get a different response. I get the, oh, may I help you? Versus when I'm in dad mode with cargo shorts, t-shirt, baseball cap, hat backwards, and waiting for someone. And I get a little bit more of the, can I help you? Right? There's a big difference, right? We all know that feeling.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's not a far stretch to the things that we see on the news about, hey, I'm just hanging out here. Why'd the cops show up all of a sudden? It's not a far stretch to think that those would migrate into places of business. So it's our job to highlight those scenarios and, in a sense, proactively make sure people understand, hey, look, everyone has unconscious bias. Everyone has it. We're human, right? And a lot of people are afraid of those two words, right? It's like no one wants to be unconscious, right? And no one wants to be told they have bias. And now I'm asking you to put those words together, right? But it's to demystify, say, hey, everyone has this. Now the trick is, though, recognizing it and say, okay, wait, before I act on it, let me pause for a second. Let me think, why am I thinking this? And then let me act properly with an idea of welcoming all, or not acting based on stereotypes, or maybe get some help. Just ask, hey, you know what? I think I should handle it this way. Just a lot of times that pause makes so much of a difference, right? It's about responding versus reacting. That makes sense?
Absolutely.
So those are some of the trainings that we do.
So one of the things I was also thinking, which is related to this topic, since we were talking about it, is your diversity strategy at different hotels around the country or around the world. Like you talked about, if the hotel's in India and they're hosting a wedding there. So how does that message differ? Do you have other examples of other countries where diversity is an issue, but it may not be related to color, for instance?
Sure.
Be more important to think about other topics.
Yeah. So a couple things on that. I mean, yeah, we're a big company. We have 7,000 plus hotels around the globe. We operate 130 plus countries and territories, right? So it's very difficult to know exactly, what matters where, but that's where having a strong corporate culture matters, right? That's where, our culture is we put people first. We put people first. And our core values, we take care of each other. We act with integrity. We welcome all. Those are things that no matter where you are in the globe, we expect and people will subscribe to, right? The idea of putting people first and welcoming all, and our take care. Mr. Marriott Sr. Has a quote that pretty much any Marriott associate could probably tell you, which is, we take care of our associates so that they can take great care of the customer. And when you do that, the customer will keep coming back again and again, right? You probably go to any of our hotels, you'll probably see that somewhere. And most of our associates will probably be able to recite that. So no matter where you are in the globe, we agree with that. Now, we also recognize that in some places around the globe, and I'll give you, for example, being LGBTQ could sadly get you in jail or get you killed or whatever, something very bad could happen. Now, we recognize that we can't, in many cases, change that law. That's a law from but what we can control is what goes on in our four walls. And that is that we will treat everyone with dignity and respect, no matter who you are, where you come from, what your abilities are, or who you love. And we'll also protect people's privacy, whether you're a guest checking in, whether you're an associate who works for us. So it's important that by subscribing to our values of putting people first and take care, that that's a way of maybe cutting across country norms, culture norms in a way. And the good news is, for most people who work in the hospitality industry, they get it. It's in the, anyone who's worked in the hospitality industry, well, most people would tell you once it gets in your blood, you kind of love it. You kind of fall in love with it. The teamwork. And if you go to if you go down to the DC Marquee, Marriott Marquee down by the convention center, it's like a United Nations of people. It's people from all walks of life. And it's a beautiful thing because everyone teams up and works together. So adherence to a strong corporate culture, though, is really important.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That takes me to my next question,
Sure.
which I'm burning to ask you.
Okay.
Notice that a lot of companies in other industries are now, even more so than in the past, incorporating into their marketing and sales the markets, the multicultural markets that they serve. And there has been, seemed to be an uptick or upswing in doing that, especially since this past summer. So I'm just wondering, in what ways does Marriott's marketing, sales, and even its operations reflect the multicultural markets that it serves?
Sure. Well, your first one part of it is it's my job to make sure that happens. So that's one thing. But I work with a great team of folks who this is very important. Let's think about it from a couple different angles. One, sure, it's the right thing to do for sure. But also from a business perspective, it just makes business sense to when you think of the demographics of the folks coming into your hotels every day, the demographics of the people who work in your hotels every day, it just makes total business sense to have your marketing and sales and operations ensure that they're inclusive and are welcoming all, and that there is representation of folks from all walks of life in your marketing and sales. That means having a diverse workforce of people who will bring up those topics and ensure that it's in there. But also it's making sure that everyone likes to see themselves reflected. And what happens when you do that, when you're reflected in your marketing, you feel, yeah, you know what? That's a hotel company that they want me there. They want me to be a part of them in a sense, right? And I will feel welcome there. And that's really important. Now, I will say though, it's really important that if you're going to do this, you do it the right way, right? You don't do it in a stereotypical way. You do your research, right? You look at ways to reflect different people in ways that would make them feel proud, not in stereotypical ways. Look, you can Google marketing fails and you'll see a million ways that companies have gotten it wrong. Some just happened last week, to be honest with you. And, the way, I'm not going to lecture other people on how to do this, but the way that we like to do this is in a way that we have a great campaign called Love Travels that we're so proud of, and really reflects that we want you to come stay with us as you are, doing the things you love, whether it's with someone you love, no matter who they are. It could be with your partner, your spouse, your family, your kids, or doing something you love, whether it's a job you love or a hobby you love or whatever, or going somewhere you love, a city you love. We're blessed to be everywhere around the world almost. But it's really important that it's something that is in here, in your heart, and we want to market towards that. Look, I'll give you an example. Let's take the LGBTQ community. When we created the Love Travels campaign, one of the first markets we wanted to go to was that community. And look, we've all seen different ways of marketing to that community. There are a lot of different ways that people do it. But we knew what was important to that community at the time was marriage equality. And we wanted to showcase a community that's just showed the different types of LGBTQ families in love, whether it was a lesbian couple, a gay couple, transgender couple, couples with kids, couples without kids, couples with pets, couples without pets. But basically it was to show the diversity of people within that community, but also show how, for that community, it was important for them to see themselves and the variety being in love just like anyone else. And it really tapped into something that made people feel like, you know what, Marriott understands me. They understand how I want to be shown, right? How I wanted to be pictured in marketing, and it made really good sense, and it was a huge success story. But we've also seen corporations who don't take that approach and maybe go with a more stereotypical approach towards it, and That's not how we wanted to do business. The other thing I would also say, we have a lot of people who spend a lot of time looking at this. It's important for us to have diverse salespeople to work with diverse organizations. It's important for us to have people who reflect the communities that we serve, and also understand operations. We think about shampoo in hotels. We've had a lot of conversations about hair.
I bet.
Yeah, and I have no hair, which is kind of ironic on this. But it's important that we make sure everyone feels welcome. So at any rate, or think about people with disabilities, making sure that our operations are there, that the bed height for one of our travelers who uses a wheelchair works for them. Because if you think about our travelers who use wheelchairs, when they want to go from the chair to bed, it's important that bed height is the right place, is at the right level. And if it's not, then our operations understand that and can adjust the bed, whether it's taking the legs off. This is how it manifests itself in operations. And it's really important to us because we want everyone to feel welcome, that we've thought about this ahead of time. I hope that helps answer your question.
It does, and it's so interesting that you wanted to talk about the hair thing. Marriott, is very sensitive to, making everyone feel that they are a part. Something else that I thought about too, though, was I understand how diversity and inclusion is incorporated into Marriott's marketing strategy, but also one of the things that I was thinking about was corporate strategy. And some companies, for instance, may have a colorblind strategy where they don't see color, whereas other companies, see it very well in other areas of diversity. I'm just wondering how Marriott incorporates diversity and inclusion and multiculturalism too into its overall corporate strategy and relating its corporate strategy to its performance.
Yeah, that's a great question. Not only do we see differences, whether it's color, sexual orientation, ability, religion, not only do we see those differences, we welcome those differences and we celebrate those differences. We want that in our company. And we look, Black Lives Matter. We believe in seeing the differences in people and welcoming it. I can't be more direct than that on that, because why is that? It makes for a better corporation. It makes for better ideas. It makes for a better working environment for our associates. It makes for better business results. I mean, and especially in the hospitality industry, right? So now, how do we do that from a corporate perspective? We have many programs to track representation at levels in our corporation. Now, the other thing I'll tell you is Mr. Marriott always says success is never final. We always have work to do. We always have work to do on this topic. But one of the things you'll see after George Floyd's murder is we were very swift to come out and explain what we have been doing for 90 plus years, what we are doing, and what we are going to do, right? We know that Black Lives Matter. We know that it's important for us to recognize the names: George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and so many countless others. And for all of us, for many of us on this call, we know that this has been going on for decades, okay? It's just that now everyone has one of these. Now people are seeing it, right? I'm trying to bring my phone here. Yeah, that's what I'm holding up. And there is an important conversation, an overdue conversation that needs to happen. And that's one of the things that we're doing in our company is we're having hard conversations. We call them crucial conversations on this topic. So this is built into our corporate strategy. It has been for a long time, and even more so now. We have to talk about these things. But also, it just makes good business sense to do it. And it makes for a better workplace. If we're going to take care of our associates, let me give you an example. Here's an example. We're really proud that we were one of the first hospitality companies to offer same-sex partner benefits. Now, let's talk about that. Why is that important? We did that back in the 90s before it was cool to do that kind of stuff. Think about a lesbian server in one of our hotels who's married, and you know, what we want is for her to not have half of her brain worried about, oh my goodness, what happens if my wife falls down and hits her head? Will she be covered with the same benefits that I get for my wife and family? Right? Oh my God, what happens if she gets hurt? Will I be able to go visit her? Will I be able to, will she be covered? Will I have to pay ridiculously huge out-of-pocket expenses? You know, will I go bankrupt? Right? We don't want her to worry about that. We don't want half her brain worried about it. We want her whole brain focused on the customer, you know?
Exactly.
And that's how you build it into your corporate strategy.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, I hadn't thought of it honestly in that way. And so it's good to hear you kind of link all of those different pieces together. But you did mention something that I think is a great segue to my next question. I know you have experience in other industries, and I'm wondering if you can talk about how diversity and inclusion efforts at Marriott or in the hoteling industry might be different from other industries, such as high tech or communications, for instance.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, prior to coming to work at Marriott, I've been there for about 16 years. I spent 13 years at Accenture. It's a big global consulting company doing, you know, business strategy for telecommunications companies. You know, I think there are a couple ways to look at this. One would be every organization has people who work for it from all walks of life. I would think every organization would want to make sure that their associates or employees feel good about coming to work every day, right? Feel good about wanting to contribute their unique perspectives and thoughts to help advance the business or advance how people work together. So that might be something that's fundamental just across any organization. We're all made up of people, right? So we all have to figure out how to work with each other in a positive, productive way that welcomes all. Now, I think from a guest or from a business perspective, that might be rare. Now, you could say when you do that, that obviously does impact good business, because when people feel good about where they work and can be themselves, they'll do better work, right? When you feel good, you know you when you feel good, you know, and you'll do better work. Now, the other part of it is, what is the business they are in? So I can speak for hospitality, right?
Right.
Hey, you know, when I tell people that the LGBTQ market spends $63 billion in domestic travel revenue every year, people listen. Or that Latinos spend $70 billion in domestic travel spend, people listen to that. When it comes to other industries, you know, if your product are, I don't know, anytime you do advertising, that's always a key way, right? It just, you know, but if you're building fighter airplanes, you know, I'm not sure how I would have to think about how you build inclusion into that. It just depends on what it's all about.
Right.
But there's always room to figure out diversity in your suppliers.
Right.
Right. But you can always fall back on diversity and inclusion in your employee base. You know, maybe you've heard that famous quote, diversity is being invited to the dance. Inclusion is being asked to dance. Belonging is when you're dancing like no one's watching.
Right.
And what you want, and everyone's at that different stage of that, but it's all of that together that I think is where you want to get to.
And certainly Marriott, you know, is able to dance like no one's watching. You know, your people, all your stakeholders able to do that.
We try.
Because of all the work that you have done. I had one more question, and then I was going to open it up to the audience.
Please.
And, you know, I know you're big in this community where we live. And I'm just wondering how you view your position at Marriott International in the larger business community or economic community here in the Maryland, Bethesda, Rockville area. What's the instrumentality of the work that you're doing at Marriott for the community overall?
I mean, I like to think that it's a job that, well, Well, let me back up. I mean, I'm very lucky to have this role. I mean, it's one that fills my soul. I feel very lucky to have it. You know, it's great to get up in the morning and be excited to go to work, especially on a dreary Monday where it's raining outside right now. But I really believe that it's a role that can be a force for good. I think hospitality can be a force for good. I feel very lucky to work for a company that really believes it and I think does a great job. I also feel that through our corporation's actions, more than words, we can show, hey, you know what? There's a way to do this that can help organizations advance their goals. In fact, it's critical. Inclusion is something that's critical to helping organizations advance their goals, no matter what it is, whether it's a for-profit business that has to answer to shareholders on Wall Street by showing great new markets that they're engaging with, whether it's a university who probably wants to make sure that their students, a wide range of students from all walks of life, one, are interested in coming to that university, and then when they get there, feel good about that university and can contribute and be who they are, right? Or whether it's a nonprofit organization that is trying to find their way and find their voice. I feel that my role, because of the external nature of it, helps maybe push that ball forward. And I feel very lucky to have it. And I also feel a real responsibility. As I always say, when your last name's Gandhi, got a lot to live up to.
That's definitely true.
That's also Mahatma Gandhi, but also Dr.
Right.
Matt Gandhi, who's also on this Zoom right now.
All right. So I wanted to give members of the audience a chance to ask questions if they have any.
Yeah, I have a question. Oh,
Please.
let me turn my video on. Hello, my name is Devanshi. I'm an alumni, graduated in 2017, and I currently work in cultural change and transformation in D&I. So this has been super interesting to hear. And I guess we've talked a lot about the initiatives that Marriott has set forth to continue their DE&I journey. In your opinion, what is the biggest improvement opportunity that you see that Marriott needs to do to keep up this momentum?
Yeah, great question. As Mr. Marriott always says, success is never final. So we always have work to do. I think that there are always opportunities to continue to grow in representation in a company. And I think that as we even take a harder look at our industry and understanding, hey, where are those drop-off points, right? Is it, getting folks excited about hospitality coming in? Or is it in the hotels? I'm asking this rhetorically. Is it in the hotels at getting to management levels in hotels? Where is it at headquarters?
Yeah.
Right? Is it, there are some cultures who, when they think of hospitality, only think of what they see at a hotel, which is great. Those are great jobs. I had one of them. But they also don't think about, hey, you know what? There are great careers in marketing and finance and legal and operations and data. And, so are we, there's a quote, the attitude towards servitude, right? Are there certain demographics that are turned off because they're like, hey, I didn't send you to college to go serve people in that way. I sent you to college so you could do something different, right? Mm-hmm. Are we missing that, building that awareness of the wide range of careers, but then also making sure that when they do come to headquarters or anywhere else, that they are being met with the same grand opportunities as everyone? Are they being offered the same chances to success? And how does unconscious bias play into that is very important. And think about it from a gender perspective. Okay, so let's, you probably, there's always those stories where I've actually seen these articles where, and this is based on the articles where, say if there's a job description and there's 10 things that are needed, many times, according to this article, women would say, well, you know what, I don't meet those 10, so I really just shouldn't apply for this job. Whereas according to this article, men might say, yeah, I hit 6 of those, but you know what? I'll apply anyway, and I'll figure out the rest. And on the flip side, are interviewers assessing that gap also the same way? If they're willing to bet on the guy that, hey, he has 6 of 10 and he'll figure out the rest for the other 4, are they applying that evenly to people based on gender, on background, etc.? So it's really important that we build that awareness, and that's something that's evolving. I don't think we're unique in that.
Yeah. No, definitely not unique, especially with our clients as well. So thank you for that.
Great question.
Thank you so much, Devanshi. Any other questions from the audience?
I have another question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'm astounded by how wide your portfolio is. And just from a manager's perspective, I'm wondering if you can talk to us about how you organize and prioritize what you do between speaking at conferences, having a family, looking for these new opportunities, no doubt dealing with issues that come up. I'm interested in how you organize yourself.
Success is never final on that either. Look, I mean, one of the cool things about Marriott is, look, let me answer the first question. I mean, it takes a lot of juggling, right? Like everyone, everyone's juggling different things that happen. I think for me, the fact that I love this job, I think really helps. But also, let's face it, I mean, Marriott, we have such great people who get this, and we have great structures across the globe. So if there's an issue in Europe, I know that I can talk to the leaders of the Europe team, and we work through this together. And there are certain things that I'll do, but there are certain things I will ask them to do, or they'll say, hey, look, we think we got this, but Apoorva, we need your help on that. So we all work together. So it's like we have tentacles around the globe, but I really use those tentacles because it's just me and I have a small team. But we have to work remotely, virtually. We have to work through others. But also there's a healthy respect of many times the people on the ground know better. They know better, and maybe they want to just bounce some ideas. But we get on the phone, we talk through it. We say, okay, look, general manager in this city across the globe, you take this task. Let me help you. Here are the things I think you should say. On that, let me take that one. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of the doing it that way. We work through others, I guess is the right way to say it. But I spend a fair amount of time on the road, maybe 30 or 40% before COVID. But I love it. I love traveling. I'm blessed to have a family, and my wife is we're partners in this, and she helps with that. And you do your best and you work through it, and it's always a juggling act, I guess.
So it sounds like you're living what you're saying by having a diverse team, respecting people's experiences and delegating to them. So it's decentralized.
Yeah. Because you're right. Just the sheer numbers, I couldn't manage every hotel, and nor do I want to. I mean, nor what you want to do is build the structures in place so that things happen, hopefully, as part of the normal course of business.
Thank you so much, Karan. I'm mindful of the time, and I want to respect everyone's time, taking time out of their schedule. I wish we had, another hour or 2 hours, but I would love to have you back, Apoorva, to continue this conversation. I learned a lot today, and I'm sure everyone else on the call would agree. There is so much information that we can take from you. We're all lifelong learners, and just having you on to help us in that journey of learning about these issues we're so appreciative of that.
It's my pleasure.
So with that, I'm going to stop and, just say thank you for your time.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Bennett. It's been a real joy to speak with all of you. And thanks so much for inviting me. I'm happy to come back anytime. And when I I've been to your beautiful campus more than a few times. I always say I love it when you guys invite me because literally it's an in-town gig, 15 minutes away. Couldn't be easier. And I'm always happy to come back anytime you want.
We just need you to bring your dad with you when you come.
You got a deal. Get to